Well, happy Labor Day from Fort Wayne, Indiana to Cincinnati, Ohio, and wherever you happen to be listening to this episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We're glad you're here. We're glad you're joining us on a night when we review a game where FC Cincinnati is learning that TQL is a hard place to play. It is a difficult stadium to play in, even for the home team recently, with three losses in a row, three scoreless losses in a row. Gives us, some vibes of years past when Cincinnati was just entering the league. But we know this team is better than that. We faced a good Philly team. We got a lot to talk about tonight in this episode 435 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. My name's Brian. I'll be hosting the show tonight here with Coach and Jose. How are you guys doing tonight, Coach?
Man, this is 2 in a row that I messed up on. I'm supposed to schedule my off days so I don't have to talk about this hot garbage, Brian. I blame you for talking me into this.
Hey, you're welcome. I'm glad you're here. I got to have someone intelligent to tell us why we're losing all these games, Coach. And Jose, not to, you're an intelligent guy too. We're glad you're here to talk about this match. Welcome to the show, man. How are you doing tonight?
I gotta tell you, it seems that when I'm on the show, also kind of like Coach, it's when they lose. So maybe I shouldn't be on the show for the rest of the year.
Can we? Yeah. Oh, all right. I'm good. Let's bring in some new talent. And
absolutely.
No, we're glad you guys are here tonight. We're excited about tonight's show, even though Cincinnati did end up with a 1-0 loss at TQL Stadium against a good Philadelphia Union team. Yeah. We did see some good things on the Cincinnati side, and we saw a lot of things that maybe we would like to see them get worked out. And we'll talk about that as the show goes. First, we want to thank Apollo Home, our sponsor tonight and each and every night on the podcast. Give Apollo a call for all your HVAC needs. Visit them at apollohome.com. Gentlemen, let's get into our best and worst. We've already got some coming in here in the chat, but we want to get to hear what you guys have to say, and then we'll throw some up from the chat. Coach, get us started.
I'm going to start with my worst first because my worst was just straight up passing. FC Cincinnati looked so bad at times just trying to complete passes. They only completed 73.5% of their passes, which is the second lowest of the entire season, behind only the very first game of the season, who was against New York Red Bulls. See the thread there? 2 pressing teams. They average 81.9% pass completion. So this was almost 10% lower. It was such a bad performance. And that leads me into my best, which is, y'all, we have seen this team's floor. They played horribly. They've played pretty bad for 3 games in a row at home. And yet they lost 1-0 to probably the best team in MLS, if not maybe second best, but I still think probably the best. Only lost 1-0 and really could have won that other than for some good goalkeeping and a little bit of luck. So I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's excusable or any of those things, but I am pretty happy that this team's floor is what we're seeing and they're still in every match and able to compete. I'd rather be FC Cincinnati than somebody who loses at home to New England and can't get it done in those sorts of situations like those guys up north. So,
All right, good there. Best and worst. Jose, let's get your best.
Well, I think the best, we saw opportunities now starting to be created on the wings. And I think that's a good thing. Yes, it didn't last long. Eventually, Philly shut us down. But in the beginning of the game, there were several opportunities that were created there. And we can talk more about that later. I also want to have an honorable mention, the reception that Burner got. I think that was very positive because I think people are saying, okay, you've admitted you didn't handle that situation well. Welcome back. So that was good. My worst is 270 minutes without scoring at home straight. I mean, that we'll talk also about that.
Plus extra time.
Yeah, it didn't include
that. Plus the 20 minutes at the end of the Miami match we didn't score. So really, it's probably like 300.
There's that too. And I got to give an honorable mention. I don't want to beat the guy up a lot to Matt Miazga because, 2 straight games, he messed up a play which wound up with the winning goal. Again, he's done a great job, but 2 games in a row better not happen again.
Or else. Better not happen again, or else, says Jose. We've got a couple.
We'll send Suarez. We'll send Suarez to bite him.
No. We didn't just say that on our show. All right.
I did not.
We got some best and worst coming in from the chat. From Rupesh, says not as bad as the New York City FC match. Worst, lack of composure. Yeah, for sure. I think we've been talking about that a little bit all season, as Cincinnati winning matches by a goal and kind of fall apart there. It seems to be at the end. Nick in the chat says best, no one got injured. Worst, no build-up play, panicking from the press and turning it over. No doubt, again, something we've seen consistently all season. And then Jay Yates in the chat says best, increasing what must be an MLS record of like 2,000 minutes of scoreless play while being a man up. Worst, this team is too soft. The league has figured out the formula to beat us, to foul fast and furious, and we do nothing to retaliate. Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit later in the show, I believe, Jay. That's a good shout there. As a worst, my best is, we got new guys on the field together. Some new players that we all got really excited about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and we got to see them on the field together for the first time, which means we expect a lack of chemistry. We expect these guys have not played together. Some of them haven't played in a while at all. And so to see them on the field was good to start building that chemistry as we build towards the postseason. Worst, man, again, just a shout out to 30 minutes of play with a man advantage with like every striker in the past, present, and future of FC Cincinnati on the field, pushing forward, trying to get a goal and not being able to do it at the end of that match was a little, disappointing to see when Pat Noonan threw everything out on the field. Again, you're not going to have the build up through the midfield when you got 18 strikers on the field in 11 positions. But that was my worst of the night. We could go on and on. Let's get into the match a little bit more tonight, guys. We mentioned the two new players, Brenner and Marchuk, that started for their first games for FC Cincinnati, at least this season. Brenner starting his first game this season. One thing I noticed, right, is we've talked about wing play, and we've not had very good wing play or wing back play. A lot of times in years past, and even this year, Cincinnati's attack has come down the left side of the field. With Marchuk this week, it flipped. So most of the attack came from the right side. Now, it wasn't incredibly imbalanced, but it was majority coming on the right side of the field, which means, it says to me, this guy wants to get involved in the attack. We got a guy like Brenner running off a guy like Denke. They could improve upon how they do that and create space for one another. But I was pleased, at least in a first start, with somebody running down the right side, sending balls across. As you guys watch Brenner, as you watch Marchuk play, what are your thoughts in their first starts for FC Cincinnati?
Yeah, and I mentioned it in my best. I think we started to see now more play on the wing, especially on the right side, which in the past was either it would just die with Yedlin, and by the way, I still miss Yedlin. But in the last third, we always knew if he went up there, chances are nothing much would happen. So I was encouraged to see that. I was encouraged that maybe now we're going to have a more multi-dimensional attack on the wings that we've had before and not try to squeeze everything through the middle. Now, again, like you said, the chemistry, the lack of yet integration because it's too soon. Sure. I mean, that didn't result in any scores, but there were some really close ones. And maybe it was a run in the box that didn't happen. Maybe it was just they weren't expecting that cross because, well, we don't cross a lot. Regardless of the reasons, I mean, we started seeing some of that. So I am encouraged by that, despite my frustration during the game and at the end and then over the weekend. It says, okay, but we saw some things that if they coalesce quickly, if they really gel quickly, this could be really dynamite front line, finally, that we have been missing for most of the year.
Did I hear echoes of, did you say the words Corey Baird in there? You said we had some really close ones. I just wondered.
No. See, Corey Baird is more like, okay, there's an open net, or oh my God, he missed it. No. That was nothing of the sort. I think in this case, there was really, some crosses, think, oh my God, he was so close, just a few more inches. Maybe he runs in, maybe he crosses it a little bit tighter, or whatever that may be. You think this time there was, don't know what the word is. I think that there was some mission behind, let's cross the ball and get it to our guys there. Now, maybe the guys weren't there. Maybe they were late. But Philly's a very good team, too. And many times they would stop it. They would disrupt it. And we'll get into that later, of course. But to me, having those guys, having Mark Zook on the right now, gives it an added dimension. And with Brenner also, teams, once Pat manages to establish that chemistry, that integration, teams are not going to have more players to worry about. And that should, in theory, open up more spaces.
Yeah, how many times have we sat here on the show and talked about FC Cincinnati trying to jam it up the middle because you play to the outsides and the ball goes there to die? Whether Lucas Engel's at left wing back and Yedlin's at right wing back or what, the ball goes there and they step on the ball and pull it back to the center backs over and over and over. With Mark Zook on the one side and Ender on the other, I thought those guys did a pretty good job of advancing the ball up the wings. And if you look at the heat maps and the areas of play, that bears that out. Now, the problem was the ball never got cycled back meaningfully into the middle. And you heard Pavel Buka in the post game being like, yeah, like they didn't even try to play me the ball at all. He seemed kind of ticked about it. So it's going to take a bit of time, but they need to find that balance. And I think that they can do that. There were several moments when they struck that balance and maybe just did so a half step too slow. Or we talked about those dangerous crosses coming in. With Brenner, what I was surprised about, because dude is really good at dropping in and linking up play. We saw him do that with Lucho Acosta over and over back in 2023. Yet he spent the entire first half running away from the ball. It was almost like they told him, just keep running the channels and we'll put the ball out in front of you. And the ball never got there. Now, in the second half, he started dropping in more and actually linking up play and taking some of that pressure off of Vander, which I thought was really good. So I don't know if that was coaching or Brenner trying to figure out what the team wants from him or what. But I think that has a lot of room to improve, because I actually really liked what I saw from Brenner on the ball. One of his first touches was a fantastic move, and then he just got clattered by a Philly player that would have been a card in any other scenario, but for it was like the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game. So I think that, I'm excited about how this team looked in terms of what they can be, and so incredibly disappointed and in terms of how I expected them to be with this new attacking talent, even allowing for a little bit of lack of chemistry and still, the inability of guys like Kevin Danke, of Evander, of Nick Haglund to just complete simple passes and do the things they weren't, causing that chemistry, the lack of chemistry, to look even worse.
Yeah. As I watched the game, I was driving home from my daughter's volleyball match a couple hours away, and I'm watching on my phone while my wife's driving, and I'm like, Brenner's starting, but I haven't seen him yet. And so I think as I went back and rewatched the game, I don't think he was involved in a play for the first 9 minutes of the match. I could be wrong. Maybe he had one here and there. But he spent 10 minutes of the game just trying to find the ball. And maybe it was the team trying to find him. But as he went, he definitely got into the game. He got some shots on target, or slightly off target, late in the game. He did find his way. He did work into it. And so was pleased to see that come along. But yeah, you're right, Coach. I think there were a number of times, even, you talk about him running away from the ball. There's a couple times that I didn't see him go to a ball, like a ball's bouncing and he's waiting and waiting and waiting for it to come to him. When the defender just steps in front of him, takes the ball away, and he swings a wild leg up and then pulls back so he doesn't kick somebody in the face. Would like to see Brenner get on a ball a little bit more. And I think he will. First game in a while the guys played. And I think he worked into a game pretty not quickly, but he worked into it by the end of the match, which gives me hope for the next match that he starts, right? The partnership up top with Danke and Brenner. There were a couple times where we talk about these crosses coming in by Marzook or others, right? Ball is coming through the middle. In the 11th minute, there was a ball that he sent across. Danke runs and stops about the penalty spot. Brenner's behind him, runs, and he stops about the penalty spot, both waiting for the same ball to come across. And the ball breaks, somebody makes a near post run, they probably have a goal. If somebody makes a back post run, they probably have a goal. But they both stop about the penalty spot, both get upset that the ball didn't get there. And Evander trots along and he stops right next to Kevin Danke. So he had the follow-up run. but 3 of our best attackers end up right at the penalty spot on this one play. Curious, as you watch that play, as you watch the game develop, did you see those two finding ways to work off of each other? Is that something that we'll see develop more as the two of them play together?
I personally didn't see them playing. I saw them playing like toddlers, where they both play with the same toys at the same time, but they don't really play together, right? That they played in parallel is what they call that. Because what I want to see when there are two talented forwards is I want to see when one guy checks to the ball that the other one runs into the space that guy vacated, right? What I want to see is that one guy checks hard away from the ball, and as that center back goes, the other guy checks to the ball into the space that they vacated. I want to see those guys combining by one ball goes into the guy's feet, the other guy folds underneath him and gets the one-touch pass, and then you can spin off of the defender who's you're holding on your back and get that ball played through. That's how you combine as forwards. I didn't see these guys do that at all. When they looked the best was when, Kevin Denke was way on the right-hand side of the field and Brenner was way on the left-hand side of the field. And a little bit, I think that's to be expected. Like, you want to play with some feel. Both of these guys would probably, if they had their perfect scenario, rather play as a lone number 9 and not with another guy in a 2-forward setup. So it's going to take a bit of time. I'm not sure this team has time. So what we need to rely on instead of those guys playing together, which I think is okay if they never develop great chemistry this year, is they need to start playing with the intention that they are going to create space for their teammates. Meaning, I'm going to make this run if it draws a defender, regardless of whether I get the ball or not. Every player wants to be the one on the ball. We talk about these big guys like Brenner and Kevin Denke and Evander all wanting the ball. You don't think Buka wants the ball? I bet Nick Hagelin loves being on the ball. All these guys want the ball, So you have to be willing to make those runs to draw a defender and know you might not get the ball. And those near post runs are those runs, right? It's the run that makes a center back follow you, because if a center back doesn't, then it's a tap in. And if the center back does, then the guy waiting at the penalty spot is wide open, right? So those kinds of runs have got to happen whether you're in sync and have chemistry or not.
Yeah. We got a question here from Jay Yates in the chat. I just wanted to throw at you guys. Is it possible that our lack of team speed on defense, at least currently with Miles out, right? Is it hurting the offense in practices? It seems like our guys stand and wait to receive passes while opposing defenders pick them off with bursts of speed. Could that be a byproduct of practice style?
I don't think so, honestly. I think you're very rarely playing 11v11 in big spaces in practice and in training. So you're talking about small-sided areas where everything happens faster anyway. So I don't think that it's hurting them in terms of not practicing against faster guys. But we talked a little bit about it in best and worst. I think it was somebody said that we're soft. I think that is what hurts, is that I don't know that Nick Hagelin and Matt Miazga are getting into Kevin Denke's chest as much as Jacob Glesnes did, right? And every time Denke went to make a run, Glesnes was there to put a forearm in his chest, and Denke stopped every time. Didn't fight through it, didn't even do the Miami thing and just go down clutching his face and hope to get a foul. Nothing. He just stopped. Just like, oh, there's a guy there, I can't run. Almost like he should have gotten out of my way, coach. What do you want me to do? And that needs to change. Somebody needs to be willing to, in practice, Matt Miazga needs to be able to be like, look, Kevin, I love you. Right now during training, I'm going to be your worst nightmare because it'll make you better.
Yeah. No doubt. We always talk in the high school team that I coach is you play the way you practice. And when guys get into it a little bit at training, we're like, all right, I like to see that. Now shake hands, make up, and let's go home. But you got to practice with the intensity that you want to play with for sure.
I just want to make a quick comment on that. When a Mexican player by the name of Hugo Sanchez went to play to Spain, said his shock was the first practice session. He says, this was like a game. He was not ready for it. Eventually became one of the best players La Liga had ever seen. I mean, he won 5 scoring champion. But in his first games, he's like, my God, this is practice, guys. What are you doing? He says, well, no, like you said, we're going to practice like we would be playing.
Yeah, I want to. We've got another comment here from Jay. Jay's really active tonight, which is awesome. We love the comments. Keep the comments. Keep the questions coming. We've got a question that leads me to what I wanted to to chat about here is the way Philly moved the ball. Philadelphia Union moved the ball very quickly in tight spaces. And Jay's comment is just the way Philly moved the ball with quick, sharp passes, how I feel like FCC should have been looking for the last 2 years. And they've had moments of that. But as Philly moved the ball, like it was something special to see, to watch as a neutral fan, right? It was really pretty. But I don't know if it had to do more with Philadelphia's spacing and the way they could move the ball, or that Cincinnati was chasing and not playing in a shape and in a formation. So, Jose, as you watch that, Philly moving the ball that way, give me your thoughts, your 2 cents on that play.
Well, as I was sitting there watching them just move the ball in that final third, almost so precisely, and it's almost like FCC players weren't even there, even though they were. I think they were moving fast, they were moving precisely, they were creating some confusion also in the line. Now, fortunately, Matt, despite his blunder, held that line. I mean, he anchored it, he directed it, they reacted. But to me, that was the difference between Philly and FCC. These guys were moving fast. They were creating their own space, even if it was micro spaces, and they were creating enough confusion that, we were fortunate that they didn't score more. Roman, when it's again good, the backline recovered well. And my thought was, well, I know our style is different. How come we can't move that fast and that precise in that final third? Because with the players we have, we should be able to.
Yeah, no doubt. Coach, you want to weigh in on this one?
Yeah, I do, because I have a little bit of a different take. I think that Philadelphia did not put their foot on the ball, look at an FC Cincinnati defense, and then slice them up like they were Spain in the early 2000s, right? Philadelphia was running down FC Cincinnati's throat after they passed the ball to them directly in the midfield. And even if FC Cincinnati had players behind the ball, they were running backwards as Philadelphia attacked with speed. And that is the difference. Number one, it's the bad turnovers. But then number two, this is where the stylistic part comes in. When other teams like Philadelphia or sometimes Red Bulls, this is even how San Diego plays, who has a ton of possession, when they have an opening, they go and they say, there is probably a 60% chance that we're going to turn the ball over here. But if that 40% plays out, we're probably going to get a chance because we're going to attack with speed. FC Cincinnati seems to favor, like, we don't want to lose the ball. So if we look up and it's not like a 70-30 chance that we're going to get a shot, we're just going to step on it and pull it back, because at some point we'll give it to Vander and then he'll get a shot. It might be from 48 yards, but he'll get a shot. And that is not the way to look good on the ball, especially against good defensive teams, because then they get organized and then they sit behind the ball. There was a play that was really, really good play in the 35th minute where FC Cincinnati had, they probably had like 15 or 20 passes in a row. It was actually the 33rd minute. Matt Miazga hit a long ball. FC Cincinnati got on the second ball. Buka turned, wrote a challenge, played it to Kevin Denke. And I'm like, here we go. Denke spun, turned, played Evander in the middle of the field. We're ready to go. Evander bumps it underneath to Anunga, and the field's opening up. Anunga doesn't trust himself to hit that ball forward to Brenner or to Ender. So he passes square to Lucas Engel. Now Philly is back. Now they've shifted. Lucas Engel goes ahead and plays it to Brenner. Brenner looks. He doesn't have numbers. Ender is wide open on the left, and Evander's in the middle. They could play a 3-man game. Nah, he just waits. He plays it backwards. The ball cycles all the way back to the center backs. Part of the reason why FC Cincinnati had 20 or 25 passes there is because they were so willing to pass the ball backwards. I want Anunga to look up and hit that ball to Ender, and if he overhits it and it goes out of bounds, I'll still be frustrated with him, but that's a good turnover. If you turn the ball over with it going out of bounds or with Philly facing their own goal, that's a good turnover. Passing it to them as they run towards your goal, that's a bad turnover.
There was
all of us around me there where I was sitting to say, every time they would pass the ball back, it's like, sometimes you have to. I get it. But there were times like, okay, just try it.
Yeah.
Okay, you turn it over, fine. But you pull it back, well, that's it. Now you've given Philadelphia more time to get set up.
Well, there's another one on the right-hand side, and I should take better notes and mark the minute when I see it, right? But I think Marzouk gets in, gets a ball across. It's pinging around in the center of the box, right? I think Evander touches it. I think Brenner touches it. It squirts back out. It comes back to Buka. Philadelphia is still like 4 of their men are still tracking back, right? We're still in front of them. Buka gets it, beats a guy, and I think he's going to turn it and go back at him into the box, but he cycles it back to our center backs who take it all the way back to Celentano at that point. And we're like, okay, now all of Philadelphia is behind the ball from 75 yards on. And so in those moments, like even Buka made the decision to go backwards instead of forwards, which I don't know that he normally does. Maybe he saw something I didn't, but holy cow, like we had opportunities to go and to press and to push at him. But there were moments that the ones that I'm remembering that Philly's passing in tight spaces weren't just, Coach, you're right, we made bad passes and they went forward. But there were moments where in their defensive third, they're just pinging a ball around and we're chasing. And we're like, it reminded me of like, I don't know, a high school team that I watch all the time right now. That's always go, 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 get the ball, get the ball, get the ball, get the ball. And it just opens up space when you're chasing like that instead of, all right, let's get back, let's regroup and get our team behind the ball. And let's try and intercept the pass. Let's try and win a ground duel and go forward with some organization and some structure. Because at that point, even if they do win the ball, everyone else is chasing and nobody's organized. We don't know where anybody is at this point.
Yeah, and this is where I hate to say it, but you just kind of have to call some players out and say they were bad. Nick Hagglund was straight up bad in this match, especially on the ball. Lucas Engel was god awful on the ball. As a center back, he turned the ball over on 29% of his touches. Nearly 30%. Most of his passes are square and backwards to Matt Miazga or Roman, and he's turning the ball over 30% of the time. How many times did he get the ball, look up, and just kick it as hard as he could down the line and turn it over? Lucas Engel made the turnover that led to the chance, that then Matt Miazga ended up playing the bad pass that led to the goal. It was a free kick, and he goes up and hits a diagonal ball off a free kick, just right to a Philadelphia player. And then they're running down FC Cincinnati's throats. When you have guys like that in your center back core, and then add in Brian Anunga, who is not a good passer anyway, you can't play out of that kind of pressure. The only guy back there that could get on the ball and turn and do anything was Buka. And so you're relying on Buka and then Mark Zook and Ender to try to work out of this pressure because your center backs aren't doing anything. And this is where you're like, man, you have to have a guy like Lucas Engel play more consistently. He can't just have absolute stinkers. And then if you're going to play a high press team, you have to have a guy like Miles Robinson out there. And if Miles Robinson can't play and it's Nick Hagglund, and every time Hagglund gets the ball, they're going to press him like crazy. You can't keep taking short goal kicks. You can't try to build out of the back, because then what you end up with is, oh, wow, we don't look as good as Philly pinging the ball around. And also we're just giving the ball right to them in the middle of the pitch. And those two guys as outside center backs, I think, made this whole system collapse. And Noonan has to find a different way to play if that's the personnel he has.
Yeah. For the bad game Hagglund had defensively, he did create he got on the end of 2 of our best chances on goal. Evander free kicks, the one he slid into, and you can be frustrated that he didn't get a foot on it solidly or whatever, but he went for it, right? He slid, he put his body on the line to get that one. It was early in the game, knocked it out wide, I believe. And then another one off his head that almost scored, like made it great. Rick made a great save on that one. So for all the, flack we're giving him on defense, we've had the water boy quoted already in our chat tonight. I'm going to quote Dumb and Dumber. He could have totally redeemed himself if had he put one of those in the back of the net, for sure. Let's move on to we've got a lot of conversation about 30 minutes of play with 1-man advantage. We can cycle back to that because that's the talk of the town in Cincinnati right now on all the message boards. I think Jay Yates is even talking about that. People are calling for Noonan's head because of this. We can't win the games, which he thinks is crazy as well. So we're going to skip some of that. I want to get down to, we saw our first look of Ayub Jabari out on the field. We had Kamara out there in the last 5 minutes, Valenzuela. We had Orishano out there, right? Coach threw everything out there. First look at Jabari. What did you guys think of the way he moved, the way he got on the end of balls or tried to get on the end of balls? And how can Cincinnati use him more going forward at 6'6"?
Well, at 6'6", Celentano can now start, sending more long passes in the middle. I mean, if he's got him and Denke and maybe Kamara, Well, now he's got targets, whereas before he didn't. I don't know. I mean, personally, I like his moves and everything, but I think it's too early to say. I like what I saw, but I'd really like to see more of him to say, okay, here's how I would use him. I mean, I can't intelligently comment on that, but probably coach can.
We're counting on it.
I'm not sure if I can intelligently comment on anything these days with this team, but I liked Jabari. I thought he looked really good. I thought he looked a little bit lost out there, which makes sense. Kid in a new country, like running around with new teammates. But he looked pretty good on the ball. When he had some stumbles, he recovered well. The only chance he had the ball to hold up was a ball that got pinged at his chest that he brought it down and turned and beat a defender and then played it out wide. Little things like that are really good. My heart breaks for Kai Kamara because FC Cincinnati is the only team that's been able to prevent him from scoring for them. He scores everywhere he goes, but not for FC Cincinnati. And I think a lot of it is the way FC Cincinnati plays. We don't have the style that's going to take care of or take advantage of a 6'6" Abu Jabari because we don't play crosses, which I'm fine with, by the way. Like, I don't like crosses are low percentage chance balls. You don't want to like lump crosses into the ball, into the box. However, there are times when you turn the corner and look up, and the Ender had this happen, and Evander had it happen too on the left-hand side of the box. Look up, and the balls, everybody is packed into that near post area. And instead of trying to fire a ball in there and hope it deflects and goes in, if you can just stand it up at the back post. We saw Kevin Kelsey score on that same play against Columbus. Like, just pop it up there and let him go get it. And that's how Kai Kamara, we saw Seattle score their first goal against Miami in the Leagues Cup way. It's like you turn that corner and you look up and there's a defender blocking that near post off, stand it up at the back post. So it's not every time, but you got to do it sometimes.
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit more, possibly in our Talking Tactics segment here in just a moment. We do want to recognize Beyond Exercise. Our second half show sponsor, Beyond Exercise, is a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. They've helped some of our local MLS Next Pro, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. Now, Coach, as we move into our Talking Tactics segment here, we've talked about some of our finishers. We've talked about Kevin Denke. We've seen what Evander can do. Brenner's back. We know what he's capable of. And with some more experience in Italy, we're excited about what he can bring. We talked about Ayoub Jabari and what he can bring. We've got some lethal finishers on the field, and so many of them are used to being that guy on their team. And now there's several of those guys playing together. How do you coach that? How do you get all of those guys engaged and involved when they all want to make the killer run? They all want to get on the ball, and they've got the spaces that they know they want to run, and it's all sometimes the same spaces. How do you coach guys to create in that space?
Yeah, this is where it gets a little bit worrisome for us, because I've heard Jose say it over and over. This is what worries me about Noonan. Like, what I would say is the way you get guys like this to play together is to have discernible patterns of play. When there's a lot of talent out there and everyone wants to score, you can't just roll the ball out and be like, come on, guys, like, go play. Because then everybody wants to be on the ball and be the one who the play is designed around. Imagine playing in an NFL game and just say, guys, okay, I'm going to drop back. You all run and get open. You know, all the wide receivers just run into the end zone. You know, nobody is cutting over the middle and getting hit, right? This is what would happen. So I'm going to give two examples. First of all, making runs into the box when the ball is out wide. You need to have a minimum of 3 runs: a near post run, a far post run, and then what I would call a delayed run, which basically ends up around the penalty spot. Brian, you mentioned that chance in the 11th minute where there was a delayed run, and then a little bit more delayed run. 3 runs to the penalty spot, right? The runs to the near post. We saw Ty Baribo miss a near post sitter because that's a tough goal to score. You got to get across that defender. You need to stay inside that near post. You need to get just the right touch. It's mostly a decoy run. The run to the back post, again, unless everybody closes on that near post and somebody stands up for you, mostly a decoy run. Everybody wants to be the one coming in late at the penalty spot, just hammer home one time, at the doorstep. So you have to emphasize to these guys, I need those 3 runs. If you are the first one in the box, you are the near post runner. If you are the second one in the box, or you're further back in the box, you are the far post runner. I need a midfielder, Buka, Evander, somebody else. You cycle in and be at the penalty spot, right? You define those roles, and you don't have to say, Kevin, you are always the near post runner. It can be first guy into the box, or you can say, call out your runs, but it's got to be a discernible pattern. I need these 3 things to happen. You can't just say, guys, you got to make better runs in the box, because Kevin Denke is saying, I made a great run, and Brenner's saying, I made a great run, and Evander saying, I made a great run, right? They did. They all made a great run, just all at the same time. So that's my first example. My second example, and I referenced this a little bit when we talked about how Brenner and Denke could play together, runs into the channels. Runs into the channels when you're making that run where you're trying to toe the line and not get offside and kind of run from inside of the center towards the outside and get played into the corner, are not glorious runs. 1, you don't get the ball that often. 2, you're offside a quarter of the time you get it. And 3, when you do get it, you're facing the sideline. You got to turn and try to cut in, and then you're probably making an assist at best, right? But you have to have guys make that run. And you have to have them understand that every time somebody makes a run to the channel, somebody else has to fill in that space underneath him. Because if a defender doesn't follow him, then he's open and we'll dump it in there and he'll be in on goal. And if a defender does step with him, that leaves another half a yard or a yard of space for you to get into. But right now what's happening is Brenner was making the run into the channel and Kevin Denke was staying central where he likes to be, posted up on a center back. Nobody's taking that space. So if that ball doesn't go in behind a Brenner, then, oh, great, there's more space in the midfield, but there's nobody there. So that discernible pattern where you just tell guys every time a guy makes this run, somebody needs to make this second run. You don't have to define it for them. There's guys like we hear about like Pep Guardiola, and I think Wilfried Nancy is a little bit like this, that like really hammer in or really structured, you will make this run. It doesn't have to be that. You can be looser and leave it open, but you need to say somebody has to do it. And if you can get all of your big name guys bought into doing it, it can look really special.
So Coach, obviously, we don't know what Pat says in the locker room, dressing room, on the pitch. We don't know any of that. We don't know his style, none of that. But if you were this little angel or devil, whatever, on his shoulder, talking to him, doing training, what do you tell him? What do you tell him to do, to say that he's doing, that he's not doing today, or that apparently he's not doing today?
I would say, Pat, they don't get it. Simplify it for them. They don't get it. Simplify it. Just tell Brenner and Kevin Denke, guys, I want you to run to the posts. Even if then they both run to the same post, at least then Evander can be the guy coming in at the penalty spot, and there's not 3 of them there. Simplify the roles. And I don't know. I talk to Justin Hoyt all the time about this on Talking Tactics, because at the college level, when I was coaching college, it's easy to tell players, like, you have to make this run, and try to define that for them. And I always asked Justin, because when I coached semi-pro, it was a little bit different. Like telling these players who felt a little bit bigger, like, I need you to make this run. They're like, Coach, I kind of like to make this run. And so I asked him in MLS, if a coach, defined that for you and said, this is your run, I want you to make it. And Justin said, no, I'm all about that. That's fine. Like, sometimes I love to have just a little bit of direction. You can't do it all the time with everything because you can't script the game. Sure. But absolutely, you could tell. And I think Pat did a little bit. I think Brenner started to drop a lot deeper into the midfield in the second half. And I think that was Noonan saying, quit running away from the ball. Come back. Let Kevin be the one that's up pressing those center backs. You drop into the space and get more on the ball. So I think you can define the roles for him. Pat, just simplify it, man. They don't get it. Simplify it.
We talked about that a little bit with Orishano, right? Earlier in the season, like, simplify, put him on the side, give him space to run, and just tell him to go instead of putting him in the middle, having to make a lot of decisions. We have a comment here from John Dench. He says, by the end of the game, Evander was dropping back farther and farther to get the ball. That can't be part of the plan. Can it?
I don't think so. I think that when they were at that point, they were up a man, right? And I don't even know that they had 2 defenders. They had 2 defenders on the field, I think, and that's it. It's like, that's when all the strikers were on the field. And I think Evander was like, I just need to get the ball up to all these forwards. So a little bit, that was like the tactics free zone. But the whole first half, Evander stayed really high. And I think that was the game plan. The game plan was bypass that initial line of Philadelphia pressure and get the ball up to Brenner and Kevin Danke and Evander and let them cook. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because Engel and Hagelin kept turning the ball over. Mark Zook, who I thought was pretty good, but he wasn't exactly, passing at 100% clip. I think he completed like 59% of his passes or something. And Ender was trying to dribble out of pressure all the time. He wasn't really passing the ball. So it didn't work out, and they weren't playing long balls for whatever reason. But I think ultimately you have to find that spacing that, Brian, you referenced earlier, that the only way this team actually is able to play one touch is if you have those layers. You don't have Evander dropping back on top of Buka and Anunga, but you have a Buka and Anunga able to actually move the ball through that layer onto Evander, through that layer onto Danke and Brenner, right? You have to play through the thirds.
How do we use a Echenike? I mean, obviously the kid has got speed. I mean, lots of speed. He's got a lot of energy. He's got some pretty decent dribbling skills. So how do you use him? Because there were times when, now, and, he'd lose the ball or they press him. He didn't know what to do. But how would you use him?
I think that – go ahead, Brian.
I think I would use him like we had started using Sergio Santos. That's my take. Put the guy in late in games when defenses are starting to get tired and let him just run at them. That's the opportunity I think he's going to get to put some balls in the back of the net, whether he's coming from the right side or whether he's coming from, a central channel as a striker or whatever. I think you get him in there, use his speed to bring energy against the tired defensive legs late in the game.
Yeah, I think that's a decent shout. I honestly think the way they used him in this game here was actually pretty decent. Considering that the game went so poorly, Echenike created two good half chances on top of one where if he would have tried to hit it with his left foot, he had a pretty decent shot himself, right? But he cut it back to his right, tried to shoot, and it was blocked out for a corner. I was encouraged by the two half chances he created were both left-footed crosses, and I think if the runners were a little more aggressive, they could have been something. But he hasn't played out there. They're not sure what to expect for him, so I don't mind him playing wing back out there and saying, hug that touchline. When you get a chance to run in behind, do it. And I think you need to have guys like Evander understand when you see Echenike run in, give him the ball. Buka tried to once, but he thought Ender was even a little too faster, and he hammered the ball and it sailed out of bounds. And then you got to tell your forwards like Echenike, he's got some skill. If looks like he's going to turn that corner, get on your runs because he's going to get that ball into you.
Absolutely.
And that didn't happen because I think that the team didn't really know what to expect from him either. I'm not sure they know how to use him best.
Yeah. So assuming that Marchuk has the right side locked in, I'm just guessing on that. The left wing back position, we've got Echenike, we've got Orishano that can play there. We've got Lucas Engel that's been out there at times. Who do you expect when all three are 100% healthy? Who do you expect starting out there in our best lineup?
Well, probably Orellano. Now, yes, we've talked a lot about his I wouldn't say soft part. His defensive skills are not what they need to be, but I think he's going to provide a lot more depth in that position. But as we've talked also, he's a guy that's probably going to get tired by maybe mid-second half. So then maybe you put in Echenike. You start Orellano, you put Echenike. Because otherwise, I think Orellano's got a lot of talent. And we know what he can do, and we know that he can bring just a lot more depth in the final third, at least right now, than Echenike can. Yes, we would sacrifice speed, a little bit of defensive capabilities, but I think his experience, knowing how this team works, knowing his teammates, once he's 100%, I would start him, and then maybe in the second half, sometime in the second half, you put in Echenike when the other players are tiring. I mean, that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. The one thing I would say is that Echenike put in, I think, a better shift defensively just in terms of effort than Orishano. So I could see in some games, maybe away to LA Galaxy sort of a thing. Maybe you put in Echenike and you say, we're going to go with this and try to keep them off the board, play our game and then put Orishano in. But I think if you're just talking about all things being equal, I would start Orishano out there. I would say anyone but Lucas Engel because he is so hot and cold. I think his better position is left center back. And even that is sometimes within the first 10 minutes what you're going to get.
Would you do him or Flores on left center back?
I would pay Flores at this point. I think the upside's higher. I don't know, but I am way down on Engel. I know most people don't share that, so fair enough.
No, I'm with you actually. I mean, I was high on him in the beginning, but he's been so inconsistent. It's like you can't have that inconsistency. Not if you really want championships.
I've got 2 comments I want to get to here. One, just a comment from John Dent. She says, Evander reminds me of the really good kid on the team who doesn't trust his teammates and finally says, just give me the ball. I mean, we had flashes of that in years past. I feel more so than Evander with another number 10 out on the pitch. I think Evander trusts his teammates a little bit more, but I do think he's a guy that wants to take command and take control and make something happen. So to see him dropping in to receive the ball a little bit more when I don't like him necessarily playing that close to the back line, I like the fact that he's trying to get on the ball and make something happen. And then, Coach, we just have a quick question from Rupesh here in the chat. What do you think about inverted wingers?
They're good at times because you can come inside and look for a shot or a pass. What Pat Noonan tried to do with inverted wing backs is the idea was that they could beat the Philly pressure to the inside coming in on their strong foot. The problem is the center backs made that play so predictable. You look and you say, okay, you on the wing back, you ready out there? Okay, here it comes. I'm going to pass you. And then you pass it to him and the entire Philly defense. I went back and I watched the build out and I'd pause it when the wing back touched the ball. And I'm looking, I'm like, where is he supposed to go with the ball? The idea I think is for him to play one touch into Buka, for Mark Zook to receive on the touchline, play one touch into Buka and then go. But Buka's covered. By the time Hagelin passed it to him, Hagelin's even covered. It's literally try to spin and dribble out of pressure because we got no help for you. And it was that time and time again.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach, for that. I want to get to some Leagues Cup conversation here, but before we jump to that, we've got 5 games left. Cincinnati has 5 games left. And just to recap, we've talked about these the last couple of weeks. Nashville at home. They go on the road. They have a little break. Go on the road to LA Galaxy. Back at home against Orlando. Travel to New York to play Red Bull New York, and then back home to end the season with Montreal. In their last 5 games, give me your predictions. How does Cincinnati finish? What's their record in the last 5 matches? Jose, give us your take.
Well, as always, I think I'm going to be the curmudgeon here. I think it's going to be 2 wins, 2 losses, and a tie. The wins against Nashville, only because we're due. I mean, come on. We got to win this next home game. LA Galaxy, I think we beat them. New York Red Bulls, we know how those guys always give us indigestion, so I think that's a loss. And probably Orlando, too. I know it's another home loss, but I just don't have confidence right now we'll get it all together. And then we'll tie against Montreal. I mean, in theory, we should be able to beat them up there, but right now, I'm not so sure. So, like I said, I'm going to be the curmudgeon, 2-2-1.
All right. If you're listening in the chat, we'd love to know your what you think in the last 5 matches, what you think FC Cincinnati's record is going to be. Drop those in, and we'll get to some of those. Coach, what do you think?
I think Jose is almost exactly right, other than I think that FC Cincinnati is going to win all 5 matches. Hear me out on this. Listen, I'm not that confident in this. It's not like I'm they're going to do it 5-0. But when I go through these matches and try to pick which ones they're going to lose, I think, no, doesn't scare me. FC Cincinnati has so much talent. And yes, they've had so much talent against Philly, but they just showed up. And 2 matches ago. And also, I think that Miles Robinson is the straw that stirs the drink on both sides of the balls in so many ways. He is so fast. Though that goal against Philly doesn't happen with Miles on the team.
Oh, yeah.
Because he intercepts that pass and he doesn't let the defender get the cross off. So it doesn't matter that Matt gets burned in the middle. Right. Also, Miles Robinson is the best passing center back that is on the team. And I think you push him into a place where he can push forward into the attack a little bit when teams are sitting back. And I think that helps unlock things too. So I think you get Miles back healthy after the international break. You get more time to integrate these guys. And how can you pick against Brenner and Denke and Evander? I just can't. Now, will they win 5? Probably not. But I don't know which one of those matches I'd pick as a loss.
Yeah. We don't have anybody chiming in the chat with their records. So
they saw two extremes. Oh man, which way do we go?
Which way do we go? John Dench says we'll win, but they'll always be 1-goal wins because they always are. That's the pattern of play. Thank you for shouting that out. Jose's thorn in his side, these 1-goal wins. Rupesh comes back with 0-4
or losses.
Oh man, let's hope not, Rupesh there.
Oh man, this guy, jeez,
this guy.
My God, Rupesh.
Let's jump into some Leagues Cup conversation. I know Cincinnati wasn't involved in these last couple of matches, the third place game and the championship, but we've got Seattle with a win over Miami, 3-0 in the champion or in the Leagues Cup final, and then we had all chaos break out at the end of that match. Jose, I know you and Coach, I didn't get a chance to see this game. I know you guys got a chance to watch them and see it play out. How did Seattle do it? How did Seattle beat Miami?
Well, I think, first of all, let me just talk overall about the game. I mean, the scoreboard says 3-0, but in the stats, if you look at the stats and even the game, it was closer, even though Miami had like 68% to 32% possession, but it was a closer game. Now, Seattle had a better XG, by the way, 1.84 over 1.12, and Miami had 0 shots on goal. So that tells you that Seattle's defense was shutting down that front line. Now, with that said, Seattle was physical. They were energized. I know it's difficult on TV to say, okay, are they playing with passion or not? But sometimes you can tell. These guys were playing fast, and were playing with passion, were playing with physicality, and the crowd was just phenomenal, as Seattle crowds usually are. So I think all of those three combined for them to push Miami around, even though, again, on the stats, if you look at them, most of the stats are close except for the possession time and the XG. So to me, while I was surprised that they won, I really expected Miami to win. After I saw the game, after I look at the stats, I said, okay, they figured out a way, like we did, how to beat these guys. And part of that is being physical with the old guys, with Messi, with Suarez, with Busquets, and with Jordi Alba.
Is that what got up in Miami's crawl that started the fight at the end of the game? Or was there an incident that triggered all that?
I've been scouring the internet to see if there's any hint as to who started it. A lot say it was Miami. I don't know that for a fact. Maybe a Seattle player, got in one of their face and say, we beat you. And then, everything exploded. So I don't know, but it was a sorry spectacle.
Yeah. I will tell you,
who started.
I watched the game, and after every call and non-call, there were 3 Miami players getting in the ref's face and tell him how he should be calling the game and why he was terrible. So I would guess that Miami was really unhappy, and probably a Seattle player said something like "quit crying," and that set it off. I have no idea, but I will say it's not like Miami just all of a sudden melted down. Like, they were melting down after every call. We've seen this time and time again. You give a team carte blanche to act however they want and to bring in whatever players they want, and this is what happens. These guys feel entitled, and when they take a dive, they feel entitled to have that call, because how dare you assume I am the great Sergio Busquets or Luis Suarez? How dare you presume that I would dive? Right, even though it was definitely a dive. So these guys are already entitled. They're already in the ref's face. And then, after the whistle, even if Seattle said something, you got to show a little bit of maturity there. Falcone had a guy in a headlock, dragging him backwards, across the field, like he was taking him back to his lair to wear his skin as a jacket or something. It was disturbing looking. You have Aviles came in from 15 yards away, running to throw a haymaker at a guy. There's no way the guy did anything. Maybe he said something. He didn't do anything to him because he's 15 yards away. Luis Suarez
Oh yeah.
I think it must have been like my old gym teacher. It looked like just some old man out there. Luis Suarez is in his face, like screaming in his face, and then spits on him. Like, it is classless. And, you know, to their credit, Miami fans are calling that out. If you go into the dark spaces of the interwebs, Miami fans, for the most part, don't seem to be saying, yeah, but they're saying, wow, this is classless. And I hope all these guys, and they're saying, of course, like, you can't run an organization and have no discipline and expect them to not act like this. So they're calling it out for what it is, and they're embarrassed by their own team. So credit to the fans, not the team.
And Mascherano was actually asked, and he was like, well, I'm not sure what happened. Couldn't you have owned it up and said, yeah, that was unacceptable? No, well, I don't know what happened. Well, you're being as classist as they are. I mean, you're basically saying, not my problem.
Regardless of what happened, your team shouldn't respond in the way they did. So the question was going to be, does Miami deserve punishment? Absolutely. Miami deserves punishment. What kind of punishment do you think will be handed down? In the, you know, the league releases their, you know, disciplinary actions this week, and when they review games and things, will Miami get the punishment that they deserve? Maybe that is the question.
I don't think they will.
I think that they'll probably look for a sacrificial lamb. So I think probably Aviles will probably get suspended, like punished big time, and the team will get fined. And then maybe Falcone gets a game or something, but Busquets, Suarez, these guys are the ones that, like, they'll get a slap on the wrist. I hope it's more than that, because there's video evidence and stuff. And we saw from the All-Star thing where they actually suspended Messi and Suarez that they're not. They know how fan bases will react if they give them nothing. So I don't expect it to be nearly enough, but I think they will face some punishment.
I read something a couple hours ago that, you know, and again, it's not sourced. There's nothing official coming up, but somebody said, yeah, a contact I have at CONCACAF. I don't know if that's true or not. Or MLS says that, yeah, because this is not an MLS tournament, then there can only be sanctions for the following Leagues Cup, which would be really ridiculous if that's true. Again, no official source, no official announcement, but I would not be shocked, guys, if MLS said something like that. It's like, well, you know, it's really not an MLS game; it's a Leagues Cup, so we got to take it to Leagues Cup, and then they can decide what to do for the following Leagues Cups. So in 2027, because we won't have a Leagues Cup, is that what's going to happen? That would be ridiculous.
Yeah. Miami faces Seattle again later this season. Am I correct in saying that? Like in 2 weeks?
I don't know. Are they? Oh, wow.
I think I saw that somewhere. I'd have to look at the
schedule.
Don't quote me on that. But that'll be an interesting matchup if that is truly the case. And no sanctions are put in place. The other question I wanted to get to, we don't have a ton of time to cover on this one.
Really quick, September 16th, according to this.
September 16th. So yeah, it's coming up here in just 2 weeks. The two face each other again. Will be an interesting match to keep your eyes on. The other question I wanted to get to, again, we don't have time to hover here, is the Leagues Cup. People have talked about this as the easiest way potentially into the CONCACAF Champions Cup, because first, second, third get in. Do second and third place from this particular tournament deserve an automatic bid, an automatic spot to CONCACAF Champions Cup? Do you believe? Well, I mean, we've got Galaxy, right, as third place, bottom of the league right now. They were great last year, bottom of the league this year. They get third place in this particular tournament, and they're going to represent MLS next season in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. We say no. What gives that third? Jose, I'll give you a chance to speak. I assume no, but no. I'm going to let you speak. All right. So no.
I think, once again, I mean, this is a made-up tournament. I mean, if this is going to happen, then what's to prevent, I don't know, the Central American teams from getting together? Hey, you know, we're going to create our own version of Leagues Cup. And then we're going to talk to CONCACAF and say, hey, you know, the first, 2, 3, they get to go to CCC.
So do first and second go, or just the champion?
I think just the champion.
In your opinion,
I think just the champion. In my opinion, just the champion, because there's other ways to determine. I mean, CCC is about who's going to be the club champion of the region. Okay, well then take the rankings of the clubs in all these leagues and whatever formula you have about determining that, then apply it. Apply that instead of making up some tournament and say, oh, the first 3 from here will go to CCC. I mean, that's my opinion.
I have no problem with the runner-up and the champion going, and here's why I'm saying that. If you're going to allot, what is it, something like I think 7 CONCACAF Champion Cup spots just to MLS, and then there's an additional 3 available through Leagues Cup, I think. But I think 7 are MLSs no matter what, right? If you're going to give them 8 or 9, if you take the Leagues Cup one away, then do we really want the 8th place team in the Shield going to CONCACAF Champions Cup either? So at that point, it's okay, you got to the final of a tournament, a difficult tournament to get to the final of. So I will give you that. It's weird to try to put this artificial emphasis on a Leagues Cup game, the 3rd place game. And the LA fans, I think, will tell you that, because if you tuned in any of that game, there were 14 people in the stands. It was embarrassing.
God, yeah.
I haven't seen a crowd that small since I coached high school games. Literally, it was so sparse, and it was
and in LA,
Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
I always wondered what the point of a 3rd place game was. There's no, you get a ribbon or something, to take home, and it's fun, whatever. In these tournaments, maybe there's money involved. 3rd place gets a little additional money, and that's, maybe worth playing for the team, but it's not fun for fans, right? Nobody wants to see a team battle it out for 3rd or 4th place in a tournament. So giving the 3rd place team, I think, a spot gives it some meaning, but I don't want to give a game meaning just to give it meaning, just to get fans out there and go, oh, if our team wins, we're going to get into this other tournament. I don't think 3rd place goes or should go. 1st and 2nd, maybe. I'm on board with just the champion in this particular tournament, but who's to say that I'm right and everybody else is wrong? I don't know. Guys, we're rounding out the hour here. We're getting to our final thoughts. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate, all the comments tonight and the questions were fantastic. Thanks for joining us on this part of the show. If you'd like to support support Cincinnati Soccer Talk with content that we do more than just the chat, get involved in what we're doing behind the scenes a little bit. We do some Patreon live streams, things like that. Join us at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. You'll be able to see all the other stuff that we do on Patreon and have a front row seat to all of that. So would love to see you over there. Let's get into our final thoughts. Coach, I'll let you kick us off.
Yeah, man, can we just go back to talking about whether we should boo players, because that's so much more fun than this. No, and in reality, here's my final thought, because I want to let you guys, I'm looking at the rundown. I want to let you guys have some time. But the one thing I will say is, if you are an MLS Cup truther and you're like, no, the Shield doesn't matter, you shouldn't even play for the Shield at all, just gear yourself towards MLS Cup, then do not whine about these matches, because teams trying to figure things out or trying to perfect the way they play, even if they don't, even if that isn't the way to beat their opponent, that's like preseason NFL football stuff. That's you play vanilla, you don't show anything, you're gearing towards a knockout tournament. So if that's what you want, fine. Quit complaining if you want the star, and hopefully that's what FC Cincinnati is building towards.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach, for joining us tonight. Always appreciate your takes and your contributions to the show. Jose, final thought.
Well, we've been talking about several times about giving FCC time to get the chemistry, the communication, the integration. And given the injuries and new players, okay, there's some rationale to say, okay, this team is not yet performing the way it should be, because especially all the new faces that are in there. I get that. But Evander, Denke, Buka, Miazga, and others, they've been playing now almost a full season. I mean, there really is no excuse for the kinds of performances we have seen in the last 3 home games. Now, the stats against Philly, for example, say the game was close, and it was close. And for, maybe an inch or two, we're not having these discussions. But there have been 2 lapses now in a row from Matt, and I'm not asking for his head, but I'm just pointing out the captain made these mistakes. 270 minutes without scoring at home. The inability to break down low blocks, which we've talked a lot about too on these shows, and a midfield that's now been stifled 2 games in a row. This does not portend well for the rest of the season. Pat is going to have to figure out a way of quickly integrating all these new faces, of maybe not necessarily changing his tactics, but maybe we send a little devil or a little angel to his shoulder and say, hey, Pat, I think you need some different here during training sessions. Because otherwise, I just don't see how this team can progress in the playoffs, and maybe not even next year, because we're going to lose players, by the way. I mean, we're going to lose some of these guys we have now because they're on loan or for whatever reason. So, again, my final thought is great roster, great results in the last few years, but we seem to have hit a plateau, and Coach Noonan is going to have to do something different for this team to really show the potential it has, because he has tremendous potential with the roster that we have. So that's it.
Yeah. Thanks, Jose. Good thought. I'm going to take another perspective on that for my final thought. But before I get there, do you guys remember the little Dr. Pepper guy? I'm picturing a little coach as a little Dr. Pepper guy sitting on Coach Noonan's shoulder, whispering in his ear. That'd be a lot of fun. That's a random thought to end the show. Here's my final thought.
That looks like Coach, actually. That looks like Coach.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Looks just like Coach. I think we need to get some things in perspective, guys. We've got 2 new players this last week. We have 2 new players on the pitch, a third in Echenike playing in a new position, right? That has a way of disrupting any chemistry that a team already has. The big 2, Kevin Denke and Evander up top, that are building chemistry. Now you throw in a new guy like Brenner, and you're trying to read his runs, and he's trying to read your runs. Even in the midfield with guys like Pavel Buka that, might slot a ball through to Kai Kamara, but might not, because Brenner's not making that run, right? It has a way of disrupting chemistry. This is a game that we haven't mentioned in the show yet, that Philadelphia is like the best defense in the league, right? Have we talked about that? Conceding only, I believe, 11 goals on the road all season. So for Cincinnati, I think this was a go for broke kind of game. If we win the game, we're having a very different conversation.
Yes.
If we have a clear path to the Shield if Cincinnati knocks off Philadelphia. So Coach Noonan throws everything out there. Let's see what we've got. If we win, we go for it. We lose with that lineup. Look, our chances for the Shield potentially are almost nil at this point. But we saw a starting lineup, mostly a starting lineup that we hope to see in the playoffs. And now that starting lineup has a full game under their belt to build that chemistry that we're hoping to see. And so that new chemistry, I think, will develop. I think we watched it develop as the game went on, with more chances being created in the second half than in the first. Brenner's getting on the ball a little bit more. As he gets his feet under him, teams aren't going to be able to collapse on Evander and knock Evander around like Philly did. Brenner's going to be, he's more than capable of handling that 10 position if we need him to, because Evander's, being swarmed. So guys are going to have to pay more attention to Brenner and less attention, at least in the last couple games, like they have been, to swarming Evander. I think this lineup but I think this lineup will be lethal. And I think this is just the beginning. And I'm looking forward to the deep run in the playoffs as these guys do build the chemistry that I think they can build. So that's my final thought. Thanks for joining us tonight on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. For Coach, for Jose, I'm Brian, and we're out. We'll see you next week.